JZ Reviews here, and today we're going to be doing a top 8 JoJo's Bizarre Adventure parts video. I'm going to try and keep it spoiler free, so yeah, let's just get into it. So I'm going to start off with number 8, part 1. I don't have the part 1 volume here, but yeah, part 1 is just, it's fun, but you know, the story isn't as good as later parts, and the fights, you know, Hamon is just kind of, you know, like a typical kind of, you know, Shonen Jump power, and I don't know, I don't really, something about it which is just like, you're like, oh, this is fun, and I want to see more, but, you know, if the whole series was like that, you probably wouldn't watch it. Yeah, but in the end, you know, it has this, I won't spoil anything, but something happens at the end of part 1 which totally separates it from other shonen series at the time. Next we have, some people are going to get angry at me for this, part 3, Stardust Crusaders. Yeah, I like it more now, but it's just the first time I watched it, I just really didn't like it, because I preferred parts 1 and 2 at the time. You know, they were, because, you know, they were more fun, and as I was like younger at the time, you know, as the series got more mature, I got more mature, so I may have like preferred the first 2 parts. It's only until like the end of part like 4 or 5 that I started preferring Stans more than, you know, Hamon. Yeah, it's just, even though I like it now, it just didn't, you know, hit me the first time on. I thought it was like really repetitive, even though now I really, you know, I enjoy reading it, but it's just something there. It's just, you know, it's kind of like go to one place, stand, go to one place, stand, enemy stand, another place, enemy stands. Just, but the last few fights were good. And when I first watched it on Crunchyroll, I what did I do again? Yeah, I kind of watched 15 episodes of the first part of part 3, and then I was like, okay, I just want to skip to the end. I want to watch part 4, so I just watched the last like 3 episodes with the last fight, and yeah, but upon like rewatching it, I enjoyed it more. Yeah, that's it. Next, coming in at number 6, we have part 2, Battle Tendency. Yeah, I really enjoyed this at the time. I think a lot of people don't like this part, but a lot of people do at the same time. 2 friends that I got into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure said that they preferred part 1, and they even say that part 1 is their favorite part, you know, even after watching all 4 parts. Yeah, it's, a lot of people like it, you know, because it's, you know, it's bizarre, you know, in the end it's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and it's fun, and, you know, it's a bit more mature than part 1, I think, and yeah, the villains are probably better. Yeah, but other people don't like it because they think it goes a bit too over the top. But in the end, I really like, you know, the last fight where it goes really over the top. And yeah, I only have 1 Jojo'nium for this, and I want to carry on buying the rest. Next, we have number 5, part 8, Jojo'Lien. Yeah, this is, I haven't read all of it. I'm up to volume 4, I think. So yeah, I haven't, you know, obviously haven't read all of it, so I don't have the full experience of the part. But I still think, after even like just reading 4 volumes, I prefer it over parts 1, 3, and 2. You know, yeah, the first volume was really good. These volumes are in French, by the way. I have JoJo's parts 4 through 7, and a bit of 8 in, you know, the French volumes. Yeah, the first volume is really good, and you get all these mysteries, you know, and he's Iraqi, you know, it really shows his development as a writer, and, you know, it's incredible how he goes from doing, you know, this kind of like, you know, vampire, you know, typical shonen series, to doing, you know, a murder mystery kind of thingy, which is yeah, really impressive. I can't wait to see more. I don't want to spoil too much, because, you know, there's a lot to spoil in this. I got spoiled a lot about, you know, plot points which I'm not even on right now. Yes, so then we have number Number 4, Golden Wind, Part 5. Yeah, I really like this, but I think after when I finished it, I kind of I read into I went to Reddit and I was like reading why people didn't like it, and after looking at that, I was like, maybe this isn't my favorite part. It kind of makes you realize the bad parts of this, but the good parts, why it's so high on the list, because it's quite a prestigious list. The fights are really good. The first fight on the train with Bucciarati and Giorno, that was a really good fight, and you get hooked. The first 5 volumes, especially, are just so fast, and you get hooked to it really easily. And I think the characters in Part 5 are really well written. You feel a lot of sympathy for them as well. Yeah, and the Giorno Stan Gold experience, really really interesting, even though he had some like unique powers at the start which Araki kind of dropped, which kind of like annoyed me. And also there's this kind of, I don't want to spoil anything, but this kind of like plot element, this kind of Jono has certain like origins, and Araki could have expanded on that, but instead he didn't. And in the end, I think Jono's kind of like a bland character. It's weird because when he gets introduced, he's kind of like this, fancy, like street prankster, a bit like Joseph in Part 2, and then as the series goes on, he just turns more and more into this kind of like serious guy. And but the saving grace is obviously the side characters, who are really really well written, I think. Next we have number 3, Stone Ocean Part 6. Yeah, this is some people don't like it. I'm not sure whether I prefer it over Part 5. I think the fights in Part 5 are a lot better, but the story in this, it kind of shows how Araki kind of matured in his writing style, and that kind of like didn't suit Shonen Jump's formula, and they really hated how he had kind of like he had a female JoJo, which Shonen Jump didn't like. I know some people say that's sexist. Some people say it's, if they want to make profit, they have to kind of change it about. But in the end, I thought Jolene was a really good protagonist, way better than Giorno. Interesting origins. Don't want to spoil anything again. Yeah, it's the the ends. Some people didn't like. I thought it was a good and emotional ending, even though I don't know if it felt rushed a bit. There was one fight near the end which could have been expanded upon, but Araki was given a deadline at the time because obviously Shonen Jump, they weren't doing well in the Shonen Jump rankings, so Shonen Jump were basically like, you've got to hurry up, you've got to, wrap it up within 10 chapters, a bit like they did with Bleach. But in the end, I think he got the conclusion. I don't think he wanted it, but the conclusion was more like a statement towards Shonen Jump, and because of the conclusion of Part 6, we get Part 7. And yeah, let's go on to number 2, Diamond is Unbreakable, Part 4. Yeah, uh, really good part. I really enjoyed this. Like, the first episode is really interesting. I kind of like the change from this serious kind of adventure in Part 3 to go into this, again, a kind of like murder mystery in Part 4. It's just it's the main character is really well written compared to Jotaro. I mean, some people say Jotaro is well written, but Araki could have expanded on his character, but I don't think he had the time, to put it in with all this, kind of the madness that was going on in Part 3. But yeah, this part just has really iconic fights. I can remember this part really well, and like Part 5 or 6, where it's these stands and characters you don't really remember, but these characters, what a character that gets introduced doesn't just go away in other parts. They will always like come back in a certain way, like a bit like One Piece. Yeah, that was interesting. Good conclusion, good fights. The main villain in this is my favorite villain in all of JoJo's. I think I'd probably prefer him over the Part 7 villain, but yeah, it's just quite iconic, and it's the part of JoJo which made me want to collect the manga. And yeah, here we have finally, you guessed it, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 7, Steel Borin. Yeah, I really like this cover, by the way. This part is a kind of like a change for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, because it went from a shonen to seinen magazine. Araki had more freedom with his art, with his story, and yeah, it was just, the art in this is really good. By the way, I'm trying to get some kind of panel up for you. Yeah, like that. Characters look more realistic, and they are written in a way which makes them feel more realistic and more relatable. I don't know who the main character is. It's either Gyro or Johnny. I normally consider it to be both of them, but yeah, I really like Gyro, especially, probably my favorite JoJo character. The stands in this are a bit different from parts, 3 to 6, which some people don't like the stands in this part. They would say they're a bit confusing. I don't think they are. They are confusing, but they're interesting, and it's nice to see Araki experiment with them. The problem with Part 7 is at the start is not too good. It's a bit slow at the start, and a lot of forgettable fights. Like the Boom Boom family. That's not that interesting. A lot of characters that get introduced, like for example, like Stroheim, just get thrown away in the bin and stuff like that, and Sandman and stuff like that. I don't want to spoil too much. Oh, and by the way, this is about a horse race in 1890, so it goes back in the past, to where Part 1 started. Yeah, it's in America, by the way, and whoever wins the horse race gets $50 million, and by today's standards, that's like a few $1 billion. Yeah, so I talk about this on my Part 7, in-depth review video, which you should check out, and I also talk about it in my top 5 underrated in manga series video. Yeah, just if you haven't even read JoJo's Bizarre Adventure parts 1 to 6, you can still start on Part 7, because it gives it like a kind of clean slate start off with, the fights in this, the villains, and it just really shows how Araki has improved over time. And yeah, this is probably the climax of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, even though Part 8 is quite good from what I've read so far. Yeah, so that's it for now. If you want to get into JoJo, it's on Crunchyroll, and you can also buy, if you want, the big JoJoniums, these hardcover volumes. A bit more expensive than normal volumes, but you get more content, and in the end, it's a solid volume, and they look good as well. Unfortunately, for parts 4 to 7, they aren't released in English because of copyright issues. You can get them on, the only way to get them is on, obviously, manga websites, which you can get online. I don't recommend going on them, but in the end, if it's the only way to experience JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 7 and Part 4 and Part 5 and Part 6. So, yeah, that's it. Please like, share, and subscribe.